The screech of wood against hardwood cut through my concentration like a knife. My monitors flickered and went dark as my desk lurched away from the wall, power cables ripping from outlets. My mother's hands were still pressed flat against the edge, shoving it toward the center of the room like she was rearranging furniture for a yard sale. "We're giving this room to Derek for his studio," she said, not asking, not apologizing, just announcing it like a weather forecast. "You can work in the basement." My brother appeared in the doorway, arms folded across his chest, that familiar smirk already forming. "You'll be fine down there, right? Less distraction." The words landed somewhere in my chest and stayed there, cold and heavy. I felt my jaw clench so hard my teeth ached. 3 years of client files, thousands of hours of design work, the ergonomic setup I'd saved 6 months to afford, all of it suddenly meaningless because my 24-year-old brother needed better lighting for his TikTok videos. My hands were shaking, but I pressed them flat against my thighs so they wouldn't see. "Okay," I heard myself say. "My name is Megan. I'm 28 and a UX designer. This is the story of how I stopped being my family's ATM and started being their wake-up call." That single word, "okay," was the most dangerous thing I'd ever said to them. They heard agreement. I meant goodbye. Growing up, I always knew the scales in our house were off. I was the kid who stayed up perfecting projects while Derek played video games until 3 a.m. When I earned a scholarship to design school, my mom, Nancy, gave me a quick kitchen hug and said, "That's great, honey. You always were the responsible one." When Derek passed an online class he barely attended, she ordered a custom cake and posted about it on Facebook like he'd cured cancer. After college, moving back to our place in Brooklyn felt financially smart. Manhattan rents were brutal, and I told myself it would be temporary. What actually happened was I became the household's unofficial bank, tech support and problem solver without anyone acknowledging the shift. It started small. Mom's paycheck came up short, so I covered the electric bill. The Wi-Fi got upgraded for Derek's streaming, and somehow that bill landed on my card. Then Netflix, Spotify, the phone plan, groceries. Every time my card auto-renewed something none of them could survive without, I felt that twist in my chest. When Derek announced he was becoming a content creator, Mom treated it like a legitimate career move. "He just needs support," she kept saying. Support meant I paid $600 for a TikTok course he never finished. Support meant ring lights and tripods from Amazon. Support meant 2 a.m. troubleshooting when his internet glitched midstream. Meanwhile, my actual job, the one paying all these invisible bills, happened quietly in that upstairs room. I'd built it piece by piece with my own money, the desk, the chair, the monitors, the drawing tablet. That office was the difference between scraping by and landing real clients. But whenever Mom mentioned it, she'd say, "Megan's so lucky she can work from home." Lucky, as if it all just fell into my lap. I kept a running tally in my notes app. Rent, utilities, subscriptions, groceries, Derek's gear, Ubers for Mom when she didn't want to take the subway. Every time I updated it, the number got uglier. The worst part? They genuinely believed they were the ones struggling most. Derek would sigh about how hard it was to make it as a creator while sitting in the room I paid to heat. Mom complained about prices while I bit my tongue, knowing my name was on half the accounts keeping her comfortable. That night, after they claimed my office, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Instead of opening Figma, I opened Zillow. I typed Queen Studio and started scrolling. One listing stopped me cold. A small studio with a big window, hardwood floors, white kitchen cabinets. Nothing fancy, but I could already see where my monitor would go, where I'd pin wireframes, where I'd put a plant I'd probably forget to water. $2,200 a month. When I compared it to what I'd poured into this house over the past year, I realized I'd already paid the equivalent of over 8 months of that studio rent, with nothing to show for it that was actually mine. The next morning, I told Mom I had a client meeting in Queens. The landlord, an older woman with kind eyes and zero tolerance for drama, walked me through the space. It was even smaller than the photos, but it was clean, quiet, and most importantly, mine. When she slid the lease across the kitchen counter of the apartment, my hand shook. Every fear hit at once. What if work dries up? What if this is irresponsible? What if they hate you? Then another thought cut through. They already treat you like you owe them your life, and they still didn't hesitate to push you out. I signed. $6,600. First month, last month, and security deposit. Disappeared from my account in one click. It hurt, but it felt clean. This wasn't throwing money into a bottomless pit. This was building something for me. I took the train back home that afternoon, careful to keep my expression neutral when Mom asked how the meeting went. Over the next few weeks, I started saying no in small ways. When they asked what to order for dinner, I said I'd already eaten. When Mom texted asking me to add things to the grocery delivery, I replied that my budget was tight. The Wi-Fi glitched during Derek's stream, and he pounded up the stairs expecting me to fix it. I have a deadline, I said without looking up. Figure it out. He stood there stunned, then stomped away. The world didn't end. Behind the scenes, I moved my life out piece by piece. Hard drive, sketchbooks, clothes and duffel bags. I told them I was decluttering, taking things to storage. The storage unit just happened to be my new apartment. By the time they officially converted my office into Derek's studio, cheap ring light and sneaker boxes stacked in the corner. Almost everything that mattered to me was already gone. It all snapped a few weeks later. I came home and noticed something wrong immediately. The cheap folding chair from the basement sat where my ergonomic chair used to be. Derek was adjusting his tripod, completely unbothered. "Where's my chair?" I asked. He barely glanced back. "Mom sold it. We needed money for my mic." I found her in the kitchen, rinsing dishes. "You sold my chair," I said, without asking. She shrugged. "We got $250 for it. Derek really needed a proper microphone. We'll get you something else for the basement." I felt my face go cold. That chair wasn't random furniture. I'd bought it with my bonus after weeks of back pain, picturing myself finally working like a professional instead of hunched over a kitchen table. "You didn't share it," I said slowly. "You sold it. And you didn't need money. You needed my money. Again." Her jaw tightened. "Don't start, Megan. We're all under pressure. Derek is trying to build something." I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app I'd been updating for months. I turned the screen toward her. "This is what I mean. Rent, utilities, groceries, subscriptions, Ubers, Derek's course, his gear, everything you forgot you asked me to cover." She scanned the numbers, her face going pale. "This can't be right. You're exaggerating." "Screenshots, bank statements, receipts, every line." Derek wandered in. "What's going on? Is this about the chair? Mom, I told you she'd freak out." I turned to him. "You think I'm being dramatic? You sold my chair for a microphone. A microphone I'm sure you'll expect me to help pay for when something goes wrong." He rolled his eyes. "Relax, we're family, we share." A sharp laugh escaped me. "You're right. That office was just a room where I worked the job keeping this family afloat while you play influencer and Mom pretends magic money appears every month." Mom stepped in. "That's enough. You've always been the responsible one. You can handle more." There it was, the script. You can handle more. Translation, you will handle more because we don't want to. "No," I said. "That's how it used to be. I'm moving out this weekend." The room went still. Mom laughed, short and disbelieving. "Don't be ridiculous. Where would you even go?" "I have a lease. I'm moving Saturday." Her face cycled through disbelief, anger, fear. "You can't do this to us. We need you here." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm doing it. Because as long as I'm here, nothing changes." Saturday morning, the U-Haul pulled up. Mom stood at the door with that brittle smile, still thinking she could talk me out of it. I carried boxes past her without answering. Then I sat at the kitchen table and wrote on a sheet of paper what Megan has paid for in the last 12 months. I listed everything: rent, utilities, phone plan, subscriptions, groceries, Derek's course, his equipment, Ubers, the total at the bottom, $18,600. I grabbed a magnet and slapped it on the fridge where no one could miss it. Mom reached for it. I flattened my hand over the paper. "You can read it. You just can't take it down." Her eyes went shiny. "So you're really done. You just walk away." "I'm not walking away from you," I said. "I'm walking away from being your safety net." Before I climbed into the truck, I sat on my bed one last time with my laptop open. I logged into every account still tied to my name: the Wi-Fi, Netflix, Spotify, the phone plan, and changed the passwords. Then I removed my payment information entirely. They'd figure it out when the next bill came due. When I pulled away from the curb, I saw them in the side mirror. Mom with her arms wrapped around herself, Derek glancing between the truck and that paper on the fridge. Guilt twisted in my chest like it always did. Then I pictured my new studio, the sunlight on the floor, the key in my pocket. I kept driving. The next morning, I woke in my new apartment to my phone vibrating off the nightstand. Missed calls from Mom and Derek, texts stacked on top of each other. "Call me, you changed the passwords. We can't log into anything. The internet bill is due and it's higher than I thought. Please fix this. We can't afford this without you. Old me would have been on my banking app already." New me sat there, staring at their names, then set the phone face down and made coffee while it buzzed. The calls came in waves for days. Mom swung between guilt and anger. "I can't believe you'd do this to your own family." Then, "I'm sorry. Please call. I don't know how we're going to make it." Derek's messages were complaints dressed as emergencies. "You really killed the Wi-Fi? You ruined my stream." I let their emergencies stay theirs. A week later, the temperature dropped hard. Mom's voice came through the phone, frantic. "The heat is out. The furnace stopped. The repair guy wants $400 just to look at it. We have nothing. Please." Old me would have already been typing in my card number. "Did you call the gas company about a payment plan?" I asked. She hesitated. "You always handle those things." "Exactly." Silence. Then Derek yelling in the background. "This is serious. Mom is freezing. Do you really not care?" "I'll help once," I said, "but not the way you think. If I step in, there are conditions." "Conditions?" Derek scoffed. "This is our heat, not a business deal. 1. I pay for this repair so you don't freeze. After that, I'm off your bills completely. 2. We sit down and go through every dollar you make and spend. We make a budget that doesn't include me. 3. Derek gets a real job. Actual paychecks. At least $300 a month from that goes toward the house. 4. You both stop treating me like your ATM. Mom's voice went small. "So you're basically asking us to live without you?" "No, I'm asking you to live like I'm your daughter, not your bank." I paid the $400 for the repair that afternoon and made it clear this was the last time I'd be their emergency fund. The next evening, I drove back to Brooklyn and sat at their kitchen table with my laptop open to a blank spreadsheet. We went through everything: income, bills, what used to be in my name. When it was Derek's turn, he shrugged. "I don't really have anything. I'm just trying to grow my channel." "That's not income," I said. "That's a hobby. If out is bigger than in, something changes." Mom looked between the columns, and I watched it land in a way it never had when I was covering everything. "I can pick up another shift," she murmured. She turned to Derek. "And you need to get a job." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. The memory of shivering in his own house did more than any lecture. 6 months later, my studio finally felt like home. Cheap rug, prints I designed myself, desk by the window. I picked up bigger clients, started saying no to the ones who treated me like a vending machine. Instead of using every bonus to plug holes at home, I bought things that made my life nicer: a better mattress, noise-canceling headphones, a yoga membership. When Mom invited me for dinner a few weeks into this new normal, I made the drive back to Brooklyn wondering what I'd find. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $100. "It's not much," she said quietly, "but it's the first payment for what we owe you, including the chair." My throat got tight. I didn't need the money. What I needed was exactly what that envelope represented: acknowledgement. Derek didn't transform overnight, but he got a warehouse job. The content creation dream had quietly faded once he realized nobody was going to fund it anymore. And to my surprise, he didn't seem bitter about it. The first time he showed up to dinner in a work shirt with his name on it and said, "I got bumped up to shift lead," I saw something I'd never seen when he was yelling into a webcam: actual pride. His old studio, my former office, had become a storage room for Mom's craft supplies. One night, after Mom went to the kitchen, he cleared his throat. "I sent you $50 on Venmo for the TikTok course. I know it's not the full amount yet, but I'm going to pay it all back." I nodded. Thank you. We both knew I was hearing more than the words. The biggest change was how they treated my time. The midnight calls about passwords stopped. If Mom called and I didn't answer, she left a normal voicemail and waited. We still argued sometimes. Old habits don't evaporate because you sign a lease. But there was a line now, and everyone knew it was real. People say revenge is about making someone suffer. But sitting in my studio, watching sunlight cross my desk, I realized my version looked different. My revenge was living a life they no longer controlled, forcing them to grow up by stepping out of the role that kept them small. Mom learned to budget without assuming I'd fill every gap. Derek learned what it feels like to earn his own money. And I learned that loving your family doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, if any of this sounds familiar. If you're the one everyone calls first and thanks last, ask yourself a question I avoided for years. What would actually happen if you stopped fixing everything? Not to punish anyone, just to finally choose yourself. You might be surprised by who falls apart, who steps up, and who finally learns to stand without leaning on you. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.